Hello and welcome back to New Wave Hockey. I'm your host, Link Dancevich, and today we are coming back with a top 100 ranked prospects for April for the 2025 NHL draft class. I know it's been about a month. It's been a lot of writing. It's been a lot of video compilation. It's been a lot of just watching these prospects and grading them, but I'm finally done. The work has paid off and you're about to see the fruits of my labor, a top 100. It's gonna be really, really awesome. So how I'm gonna do this is basically I'm gonna try to go into as much detail as I can fit into as short as possible of a time for each prospect, and I'll be progressively going less and less detail. I'll even have videos for the top 33, 34, 35 prospects as well. But after that, I'll slowly go into less and less detail and kind of talk about tiers and rankings and where certain players fit and why they fit where they are. Context matters, and you will see that throughout this video. I'm going to try to keep this short, a little bit brief. Let's just get right into it. My NHL draft rankings have pretty much had one guy at the top of the list since around January, and that man is Michael Misa. I've really talked Michael Misa up all year. He plays a perfect game. We go over this all the time. The skating is really, really solid. The shooting, again, is another great aspect of his game. 62 goals and 134 points this year. That doesn't happen from nothing. I really hope the critics are now satisfied with his level of production, because last year he was a role player. He was point per game, and he was on the Memorial Cup winning Saginaw Spirit championship team, and they're like, oh, we're worried about his production levels. Are you satisfied now? I think the most important part of his game is his IQ. His anticipation and his off-puck play is as important as his on-puck play and what he does in transition. My comparison for him would be a Matvei Michkov. I know Matvei Michkov is a winger, and yes, Michael Misa does tend to show winger tendencies. However, I think he has more potential at center than most of the prospects that are labeled center as well. We'll see what his position will eventually be, but at the end of the day, you're getting yourself a top line forward who looks like he can put up elite production. The draft is as easy as taking Michael Misa number 1. It's that simple. At number 2, moving up one spot, I have Matthew Schaefer, a left-handed defenseman from Erie. He played a short 17-18 if you count that one World Junior Championship game, but what an explosive sample size that was. He was the best player on the ice in every single game that he played, bar none, not even close. He was the best defenseman on the ice every single game that he played. He was my number 1 prospect for a little bit. I didn't make a ranking, but coming out of January, seeing how he was injured, it was tough, so I put him down to 3, but he was playing like a number 1 prospect going into the World Juniors. The skating is arguably the best in the draft. He is going to be a number 1 defenseman. I think out of all the players in this draft, him and Michael Misa have the best shot at playing meaningful games next year on an NHL roster. What sets him apart the most is his offensive IQ and, again, his defensive competencies. I think he's just super creative. He is so smart in the offensive zone. He just gets plays going. You can't really ask for any better player. I think Miro Heiskanen is a really solid IQ comparison, but in terms of actual gameplay, I think Roman Josi really stacks up as a really good comparison for Matthew Schaefer. All in all, number 1 defenseman in your system, bar none. Number 3, moving down only one spot. I didn't want to move him too far because let's make one thing perfectly clear. James Hagens is a tremendous prospect. At number 3, I have James Hagens. The hype fatigue aside, he's scoring point per game pace in the NCAA is worth writing home about. He is a really impressive prospect, an excellent distributor, a really smooth skater, and a magnificent puck carrier. For those reasons, I think he's going to turn into a number 1 center. Is there a possibility he doesn't? Absolutely. Stick handling, really, really solid. The shooting, it needs to get better. He was partially snake bitten this year, but I also can't ignore some of the shots he was taking, and the shot selection wasn't that great. And I think that's something that he can improve upon, but that's not his bread and butter of his game. So we will see what happens with him. I think comparisons, we can talk about Logan Cooley and Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes was, I don't know if people remember, it took him a little bit to develop. People thought that he was not playing up to his full potential or his abilities early on in his career. I think that's something that people are looking at James Hagens and bearing striking similarities to. Don't worry about it. Do not be concerned about a point per game in the NCAA. He is a really solid player that makes mistakes, but he's gaining the confidence. He is a skill player. He's a really good skill player too. I think he could be a number 1 center, but I think bar none, he's going to be on the power play, and he's going to be a top distributor on that power play. James Hagens, I don't have him moving anywhere close to lower than 3. I really think he's a tremendous prospect. At number 4, I have Caleb Denoier from Moncton in the QMJHL. Now, kind of solidified his ranking at number 4 before seeing how much production he has been putting up in Moncton. in the playoffs. He's only strengthening his case to go 4th overall. He's been ripping up the QMJHL. 35 goals, 89 points, 56 games. His long-term outlook as a center and his well-rounded play put him over the edge over the guys just below him. Looking at what he can do, the shooting and the IQ, offensive-wise, this is a dynamic player. He can create plays on his own. He can shoot really well and from deep. Another thing that is off the ice is he is a leader. He is a team player. This guy finishes his checks. He'll go after guys on the ice. He is somebody that I think GMs are going to fall in love with, and he only really needs one more year of QMJHL production, and he's going to be over in the NHL. I really think Denoier has set himself apart from a lot of people in this draft class, and he really looks like a center out of everyone else below him. And at number 5, I have one of the biggest risers coming up from the 11th spot in my last rankings, Anton Fondell. I have been really tough on Anton Fondell throughout the entirety of the year. I will say, I was wrong about him. He came out of the gate really slow, and I punished him for it, but now he's showing that offensive prowess that we all knew was there. He's the highest points per game of any draft eligible in the Allsvenskan, coming in at 0.86. That's higher than William Nylander and David Pastrnak. We've talked about it at length at this point. The skating does worry me, because he will require somebody who's really good in transition, whether that's a defenseman, whether that's another winger, whether that's a center, because I think he really projects as more of a winger than a center. But the shot, the IQ, the compete, the grit that he shows in the offensive and defensive zones, he has shown so much this season, so much offensive potential. He could really break out and be a star. I'm just worried about some of the details in his game. Could he fall a little bit? Could he fall to like my 7 or 8 still? I'm not ruling it out. We will see. I'm really going to be going back and really scrutinizing some Anton Fondell tape, as well as the guys who are just below him. But he's made a great case for himself, and I've rewarded him with a top 5 ranking here. At number 6, I have Porter Martone, and this might be a shock to you guys, and if you went and talked to me in like August of this year, it would be a shock to me too. It kind of blows my mind that Porter Martone has fallen as far as he has. I'm the one making this list, so go figure. He offers a very unique set of skills to the game that make him just an intriguing mix of like a two-way and power forward, but not also being either. He's a net front presence, which makes him valuable on the score sheet, so we will see what people will use him as. But the skating, it worries me, especially the off-puck skating. Oh my lord, I need some more engagement. But the passing and the stick handling, do not underestimate this guy's passing ability. Do not underestimate this guy's stick handling ability. He's going to be a really sneaky good distributor, but where he makes his bread and butter is right in front of the net, tipping pucks and being that net front presence that you kind of want to see. People have been comparing him to Corey Perry, Matt Tkachuk. I'm not there. I've been watching this guy for a long time, and he doesn't compete like those guys at all. I would say that he's a Corey Perry with less bite, and I think the perfect comparison for him is specifically Joe Pavelski when he was on the Dallas Stars. But second line to top 6 winger, I think he could play on the top power play. I've got him all the way down at 6. Could he fall lower? I'm not ruling it out. So we will see. But Porter Martone, really solid draft year. He had 98 points this year for Brampton. So I'm getting nitpicky, but he's fallen down to 6 for me. At 7, I have Victor Ecklund from Your Gardens in the Allsvenskan League. Talk about a player with some fight. Victor Ecklund has the highest motor in this year's draft, bar none. He's become one of my favorite players in this entire draft class. I will be paying really close attention to the draft combine, because when those measurements come out, I will guarantee you, literally pause the video, write this down, and if Victor Ecklund is taller than 5'11" and weighs more than 161 pounds, then I will feel justified, because he is insanely strong. He put the world on notice with his World Juniors performance. The skating is really solid. He's a great transition player. His wrist shot is fantastic. Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. The stick handling, really, really solid too. It's not to the level of William Ecklund, but it's there. You can tell this guy's an Ecklund. The passing's really solid. I think it's a better ability than Anton Fondell's. The IQ, really excellent. But the compete, that is where it comes down to. He is a second line middle 6 winger. Well, I really see power play upside with him. Look at him in retrievals. This guy will fight and die in the trenches. He is a tremendous player. I think he compares to Braden Point and Jesper Bratt. And yeah, those are skill guys. I mean that. I think he could really have that sort of upside for a team. Again, it's the size issue. That's what people grapple with. But I really believe he made Fondell so much better this year. He showed us what he could become. So I'm a big fan of Victor Ecklund. Moving on to number 8, this is going to be controversial because I've kept this guy in for a long time. People have been kind of not feeling like he's a player who's worth a top 10 pick. And I'm of course talking about Roger McQueen. He is a glimpse into the future of the NHL and what types of players that will be in it. 6'5", and he moves like he's 5'11". He is super swift with the skating, super swift with his stick handling. Fantastic player with fantastic tools. However, it's the classic argument of tools versus production. He played 17 games this year, much like Matthew Schaefer, and he had 20 points. There are injury concerns, and they are very, very real. But I feel like the risk and the reward are about at the same level. So this is a huge risk-reward player, and 8 is a great place to slot him in. The stick handling is really the bread and butter and the compete. I really see him as a middle six center. He is somebody that is going to get drafted and put in the middle, and he's going to outperform expectations. I know that he's on New York's and Boston's radar. Don Sweeney is going to love this guy. Chris Drury is going to probably try to trade up with this guy. The back injury is going to be a legitimate concern for a lot of people, but I'm willing to take the risk in some scenarios. I think if he falls all the way to 8, 9, 10, I'm using that first round pick on Roger McQueen. Why not? At number 9, I have Jake O'Brien from Brantford in the OHL. One of the biggest risers on my list this year. He was someone that was on my radar last year because of how well he played with Marek Vanacker. And I put him into the discussion in the first round. Did I think he was going to get this good? No. He's also grown up a little bit, and he's developed so well over the course of this season. His passing and IQ is tremendous. He's the second best distributor in this entire draft. I think he's the second or first smartest player in this entire draft. His skating needs some help. I will say that. The stick handling is really great. The compete, surprisingly really solid. It's just the skating I'm a little worried about. 98 points in your draft year is impressive in any league. He's really checking a lot of boxes, and I think he's a very important factor into why Marek Vanacker and Nick Lardis have had such noteworthy seasons this year. I think a comparison for him would be Robert Thomas, and I can see a lot of people's discretion and kind of saying, oh, this guy's a power play merchant, and I'm not gonna lie to you, that kind of factored into my ranking of him. He is a top 10 player. He's gonna play great on the power play. It's just a matter of what he's gonna be at even strength. What is his utilization going to be day in and day out? And I think he's going to be a middle six center, and he's going to be pretty good, but we will see what kind of star power he has, because the NHL Central Scouting has him at, I think, 4 for North American skaters, so he is a very solid player. At 10, I have Radim Mertka from Seattle. This is another controversial ranking because I'm squeezing this guy into the top 10. I'm not going to lie to you, any normal year, I don't think this is a top 10 draft pick. This is a tough, kind of weak year that gets a little bit weaker at this drop-off. He's looked really solid on the back end. Has he been incredibly noteworthy? Not really necessarily, but I think he still makes a great pitch to be the second best defenseman in this entire draft. He came over from the Czech League. He was an Oshilari Trinich this year. He played a very solid stay-at-home game, a very conservative style of play. Then he came over to Seattle, and he played completely different. He was handling the puck. He was carrying the puck up the ice. He was becoming a distributor, a transition defenseman. Was he great at it? Not really because of his size, but the flashes are there. And it might not be his game when he goes over to the next level. Obviously, he's going to have to prioritize defense and the already really solid compete that he's been showing. But knowing that he has that in his arsenal makes just a world of possibilities for Radim Mertka. Also add in the fact that he's playing almost 30 minutes a night. This guy is getting a ton of reps. 6'6", right-handed defenseman. My money's on him developing more than a lot of other defensemen in this entire draft class. He is a top 4 defenseman, top penalty kill, maybe second power play. I don't know what his outlook is for the power play. My comparison for him would be an offensively minded Tyler Myers, as weird as that sounds. All right, moving along here to number 11, Justin Carabano of Blainville-Boisbriand in the queue. Carabano is a relentless worker. Yes, the shot stands out, but he's so much more than just a shooter. The skating is honestly really solid, and he's becoming a really good transition player. The stick handling, this guy makes some gross stick handling moves. However, again, sometimes he has the tendency to do a little bit too much, but I think the potent offensive ability combined with his growing two-way play, and he's got a big frame too, I think he's really going to shape up into a really nice second line scoring winger, potentially on the first power play. I see this guy as a Brock Besser type player, really big, really compact scorer who can skate really well as well. Moving on to number 12, I have Jackson Smith from Tri-City. This guy is an athletic freak, and offensive defensemen don't just grow on trees, especially ones that are 6'3". He brings a physical advantage to his offensive skill. It makes guys like me wild for a player like him. The skating, very solid. However, the north-south skating, fantastic. A lot of other aspects, I don't know so much. The edge work is great. Again, I'm a little bit worried about his four-way mobility. He plays really well, but again, he can skate himself into a corner. Some of the technical details are what I'm worried about him. What really, really holds him back is the rawness in his game. Not only in his positioning, but in his defensive play in concept. I would love to see a little bit better of an off-puck ability, and I think he just needs to be coached up a little bit, but Jackson Smith, a tremendous prospect. I think he's going to be a top 4 offensive defenseman, top power play guy. I think his comparison is a guy like Brandon Montour. At number 13, I have another defenseman, Logan Hensler from Wisconsin. Sometimes you just need a steady two-way defenseman to solve all of your problems. Look no further than Logan Hensler's skating prowess and just retrieval games give him an edge upon a lot of defensemen in this draft. He is a frustrating guy to play against, and at the end of the day, that's something that you would love to see. He played a really solid game at Wisconsin. Again, people wanted to see more scoring out of him, me included, but I think what you have now is a defensive game that is really well developed, a transition game that is really well developed, combined with offensive abilities that we already know are there. It really makes for a very compelling prospect and somebody that I will consistently rank very high. He will automatically be a top 4 two-way defenseman. Give him another year in school, and I think he compares to a guy like Vince Dunn and Cam Fowler. He's a guy that's going to age like wine in the NHL. At number 14, I have a guy that I'm a bit higher on than a lot of other people, Malcolm Spence, my second Erie Otter in the top 14. He's nearly a year older than his teammate Matthew Schaefer, but he possesses some similar game-breaking ability in his arsenal. He can take over games with his size, with his skating, with his stick handling. Look how efficient he is in transition, despite him being a lazy player. That laziness and that lack of compete, that lack of effort can scare me, and I know it scares a lot of people out there. He can check out of a shift before he even comes off the ice, but everyone will always want more out of a 6'2", 200+ pounds guy, especially me. I really think, despite all of that, looking at the body of work we have ahead of us, looking at the points that he's put up, looking at how much of a beast he's become in the playoffs, you have someone who's a middle six two-way winger who can play on the power play. I look at this guy and I think, best case scenario, Mark Stone, JT Miller, and that's lovely. Amazing. Malcolm Spence, I really think, and I will make the case continually, that he's a top 15 prospect in this draft. At number 15, I have Brady Martin from the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. I will be taking a physically imposing center who produces points any day of the week. Brady Martin gives his teammates an edge with this body and skating ability. There is a cap to his scoring ceiling, however. I'm not certain of how prolific of a scorer or a passer he will be at the next level. That aside, there's a lot of spunk and just a complete nature to Brady Martin. Love the skating, big fan of the IQ, and even bigger fan of the compete. I compare him to a guy like Troy Terry, and I think he's going to be a solid middle six two-way center in the league someday. At 16, I have Kayshawn Aitchison, a left-handed defenseman out of Barrie. Physicality is a luxury in this new day and age, and Kayshawn Aitchison has a monopoly on physicality. He harasses opponents to no end, and he's just not a fun guy to play against. His case gets even stronger when you factor in that he has 30 goals this year, and you see how well he skates and his booming shots. The mix of just truculence and goal scoring as a defenseman, along with some really solid defensive awareness, I would be running up to the podium to take him. He's going to be a top 4 two-way defenseman, and I look at him as being a mix between a Jacob Middleton and a Nikita Zadorov at their peaks. I really love Kayshawn Aitchison. Moving on to number 17, I have from Moose Jaw in the WHL, Lyndon Lakavic. The tools that Lakavic possesses are insane. His shot, his stick handling ability, and the sheer size with the skating, he's great. The puck carrying ability is going to make him a transition machine at the next level, no matter what. However, he will need to develop his game a lot to make that happen. I struggle to project him as a sure thing while looking into shot selection, his poor zone entries, selfishness with a puck, and kind of his off-puck laziness. I think he could be a really fun player. Believe me, I would love to see him succeed. He just needs to put in a lot of work, so we'll see. We'd love to see him come over to the NCAA, but I can see a top 6, potentially dynamic, potentially two-way winger who could potentially log some power play minutes, and he looks like a little bit of a lesser Tage Thompson. At number 18, I have Milton Gastron from Modo in the SHL, and I can't lie to you, Milton Gastron is one of my favorite players in this draft. I have advocated for him every single step of the way, and I think he's shown enough not only to be a first rounder, but a top 20 pick. I really think that he can do everything. He's a similar player where he doesn't really have a lot of flaws in a lot of areas. He's a suffocating two-way game with grit and physicality along the boards and in all 3 zones. His skating abilities have been excellent. You have seen him in the U18. He's been driving a lot of that Sweden offense, and it's going to make him an excellent transition player someday. I really like the shot, and I really like his deceptive passing ability. I think there's a very low risk with Gastron. However, the ceiling is very much in question. How much of an offensive player will he be? Will he play at center? I think he will, because he's really solid at faceoffs. Will he play on the power play? Again, that's all in question. However, there's a very low risk to his game. Bare minimum, you're getting a middle six two-way center, and that's something that is a luxury here in the NHL. Look at a guy that could potentially have the ceiling of Jared McCann. Look at how well that he's filled out in Seattle. I think Milton Gastron could be a potential Jared McCann-like player for an NHL organization. At number 19, I have Blake Fiddler from Edmonton. Fiddler is like Play-Doh. That's a benefit, but also a con to his game a little bit. He can become anything. 6'4" defenseman with great skating, some solid stick handling, and he has become a transition menace. His size and reach make him a really technically sound defenseman, good at quashing rushes, stamping out offensive pressure in general, but he needs a lot of rounding out, almost as much as Jackson Smith, to become an NHL player. His decision making needs to improve. If there's really any hope of furthering his offensive game, I really think he could turn into a beast, but he could become anything with the development that he gets. He could be a top 4 two-way defenseman. He's a mix between Dougie Hamilton and Brandon Carlo at his best. At number 20, I have the exciting Bill Zanin from Rouyn-Noranda in the QMJHL. Sometimes passion and determination take over for a prospect and fill in gaps in their game, and I think that's the case for Bill Zanin. His work ethic and his battle that he puts into his game set him apart. It gives him a certainty that other players just don't have out of this year. I've been pleasantly surprised with his off-puck game and his passing ability. He's really become a lot better with his stick handling, and that's just grown over the course of the year. He obviously lacks in skating, and the offensive overall potential, again, is hurt by a lot of the stuff that he showcases, and it's going to scare some front offices, but his no-quit mentality will bring culture change to an organization someday. I really like him. He's a middle six kind of grinder winger, and he could be a face-off specialist. His player comparison is a Brendan Gallagher at the top of his game. Don't know how many points this guy is going to get, but you know he's going to be gritty. He's going to be a two-way player, a really solid player that you're going to get out of Bill Zanin. At number 21, Colin Potter from Arizona State. Have you watched at least one shift of Colin Potter? If you haven't right now, I want you to pause the YouTube video right now, and you will be there for hours just scrolling through Colin Potter highlights. He is a highlight machine. His 3 biggest strengths are his skating, blazing speed, effortless dexterity. His shot, finding really tight spaces with a pretty decent amount of power for his height, and his stick handling. He makes opponents look silly. His excellent transition game and chance generations are countered by the fact that he's still very raw and that he just does too much with the stick, and sometimes it doesn't help his game. His height doesn't really help him either. He's a little bit of a shorter player, but he's not like 5'7". He's around 5'9", 5'10". It's workable. It's manageable. I think he could be a middle six offensive forward with some power play ability. He compares to a guy like Trevor Zegras. At number 22, I have Cameron Reed from the Kitchener Rangers. Recency bias. Cameron Reed is going to look like a steal next year, no matter where he goes. He's the issue of being a 6'even" left-handed shot defenseman, and that's really it. He looks fantastic. Skating is excellent. He's going to be a great puck-carrying defenseman at the next level. And what has been even better is his off-puck game. He defends really well with stick checks. He engages defensively, which you absolutely love to see from a guy who's that offensively inclined. Defensemen like him get undervalued every single year, and just look at the Hudson brothers. He might suffer the same fate. I hope he doesn't. He looks like a top 4 offensive defenseman who could play on the power play, and he looks like a shorter Gustav Forsling. At number 23, I have Yakob Ehnjak from Luleå in the SHL. He came back from the dead. He really has shown a ton to me. Taking a peek at his year before January 2025, you would have written him off as another Pierre-Luc Dubois in his final year with Columbus. Not this year with Washington. He's been pretty good. However, he has come back, and he is just a fire that's been unmatched by many prospects. His offensive skills are a premium, and putting his production on display just in every level of Luleå's system. Again, effort has still been a concern, and it's going to be a concern for a long time. It's something that I'm still a little worried about when grading Yakob Ehnjak. Through every shift that I've seen, he's gotten better. He's improved. The shooting looks really good as well, and I could see him being a middle six two-way forward on the second power play, look like a lesser Leo Carlson as a winger. he might drive play someday. Don't write him off. I think he's still a first rounder. At number 24, I have Shane Vansagi from Michigan State. This is a guy who will be in the NHL sooner than anyone can imagine. He is a man amongst some pretty large boys in the NCAA, and he's only 18. He set himself apart physically in the rough and tough Big Ten, and he will continue to do so with his heavy frame in every single league that he plays. He's a shockingly strong skater. I think he can still get a little bit more potential out of his skating. He's a very powerful guy, and his power is his main asset. When he scores, he's driving through the middle of that. He's a really big dude. He moves really well. He's a pure punch you in the mouth type of player, and I think he's going to be a really solid power forward, and he's going to enforce that label at the next level. He's a middle six to third line power forward, and I think he's a Dell from the Calgary Hitmen. 99 points in your WHL draft year is nuts. It's insane. And this guy has the potential to commit murder on the power play, and I love his play in the offensive zone. So why is he down at number 25? Besides his excellent anticipation, his skating and off-puck compete hamper his defensive game a ton. Combined with his size, I really don't know how effective his style of play will be in the NHL. Yeah, he can be very productive in the WHL, but will that transition? I don't know. I think he's regardless a very brilliant player and a prospect that I'm really excited to see develop, but we will see kind of what his ceiling will look like. I think he can be a middle six playmaking winger, power play specialist if he develops, and I think a great comparison for him would be a Sam Gagner type player. And at number 26, I have Carter Bear from Everett, and I understand that there are a lot of people that love Carter Bear, and I am just not in that camp right now. The strengths are obvious. Obviously, he's an unreal competitor, second to only Victor Ecklund, and he finished with a ton of points. 40 goals to boot. He is a menace in front of the net. This guy will fight for every single goal, and I don't know if you've seen every single goal that he gets, he is literally down on the ground fighting to push that puck into the net. However, I have some concerns, and I believe they're very real concerns. His skating was never that good, and with his current injury, it makes that more of a concern for me. How is he going to come back? How is he going to look next year in the WHL? I question his offensive upside overall as well. I'm not the biggest fan of his stick handling. I'm not the biggest fan of his shooting, but the IQ and compete, they're undeniable, and they make him a better prospect than I believe he really is. I still think that ceiling wise, he could reach that middle six two-way winger position. He looks like more of a third liner to me. I really think he is a Tyler Mott with a little bit more of offensive upside. I think he's really got to focus on that two-way game because I think that's what it's going to be his bread and butter at the next level in the NHL. If you think I'm wrong, this is probably the prospect that I'm the most contentious about, so please feel free to argue with me in the comments. I'll be there, trust me, I'll be looking. At number 27, I have Carter Amico, a right-handed shot defenseman from the USNTDP. Here's another guy named Carter who I have another controversial opinion on and had a pretty serious leg injury as well. And I love Carter Amico, I really do. He gets involved in all areas of the defensive zone. He enforces his large frame upon anyone who tries to challenge him. Go back and watch the USNTDP versus the colleges that they played. This guy was a menace. Retrievals and board play are his specialities, and if you're in the way of him getting a retrieval, he will throw you down. He is brutal. His injury does raise some concern. It was both a non-contact and a lower body injury, and it knocked him out for the rest of the year. And I still believe this guy's a first rounder, but that is something that is taken into concern. He's a top forward to middle pairing defensive defenseman, so we'll see where he goes there, and I think he could end up like a Jamie Oleksiak. Rounding out at number 28, the last of the guys that I think that could be first round talents, we have Maxim Afanasiev, a right-handed shot defenseman from Ufa in the Russian league. Russia's top talent in the year of 2025 is a defensive player. Maxim Afanasiev brings mobility and fluidity to the offensive zone, two very crucial ingredients for a two-way defenseman. I really like his defensive game as well, but he's a much better neutral zone defender than he is in the defensive zone, which will be the main point which I'm looking for him to improve upon. The offense, really, really solid. That's going to be the bread and butter, and that's what I think is going to put him into the first round in general. I think he's going to be a very trendy, why was he not picked higher type of guy next season, so we'll see what he does. He looks like he could be a top 4 two-way defenseman, and he kind of compares to a Caden Gooley. Now at pick 29, an important discretion. From this point onward, there's a new tier, because I feel like picks 1 through 21, they're all first round prospects. Picks 29 through, I would say, 49 are guys that are second round talents, third line, middle six ceiling. So I'm going to be going into a little less detail about each prospect, but I'm going to still be giving you my entire ranking. But I just wanted to establish that from now on, this is where I think the second round talents begin in this draft. So just getting that discretion out there. At number 29, I have Eddie Jenborg from Linköping in the SHL. There are a handful of just very fringy Swedish forwards who are battling to become a first rounder, and Eddie Jenborg is my personal favorite among all of them. He plays a very mature game. He's 6'2". I like his frame. I really like how physical he was in the SHL this year, and he fights and competes for goals. I like the compete. He's a very well-rounded player, and I think he's going to be a very solid middle six two-way winger, if not a third liner. And I think he compares to a guy like Simon Holmstrom, who's had a breakout year. David Bkowski, the right-handed defenseman from Owen Sound. Yeah, at number 30, he is a bit of a surprise for some people, I would say, but watching the tape, 6'5", right-handed defenseman, yes, of course. I mean, that's great to begin with. What can he do after that? He's a really solid skater. He's a very high IQ defender and also distributor as well. He's really solid skating. It's big for a guy who is so big. Again, it's great at creating a role for him, and it helps him also defend along with his reach, just quelling rushes before they even start. David Bkowski, a very solid, a very safe, big defensive pick here late in the first round. Number 31, I have Braden Coots from Seattle. He was giving Thunderbird fans visions of Matt Barzal with his energetic play, whizzing up and down the ice with great skating speed, creating really solid chances for his team to score. And that skating is very solid. While it is very solid, it's very straight line skating. Again, the lateral movement I would love to see a lot better of, but he creates a lot of great chances. Very well-rounded player. He's a bit of a middle six, third line guy. He brings a lot of energy, and he looks like a little bit of a lesser Brandon Hagel. And at number 32, Jack Nesvit, my last first rounder on my list for April, is this big rig from Windsor. He is really fast. His skating and transition game has improved tremendously over the course of the year. So he's going to go higher than his ranking on draft day. So much love with this big, impressive center. I'm just concerned with how raw he is, and I'm really nitpicky because I don't know what his real offensive upside could be. Best case scenario, you're getting a guy who is going to be a middle six, more power forward center who might have some offensive upside as in Philip Hedl. Now moving on to number 33, I have Daniel Prokhorov from MHK Dynamo in Russia. There's a lot of high risers from Russia, and I will mention a couple actually in this little segment here. Prokhorov and Alex Zurovsky are the obvious two favorites, and I think of the two, I prefer Prokhorov because I think he's way more projectable at being a net front presence and a really solid skater with the great stick handling ability that he does at 6'6". This guy's huge, and I really see shades of Valeri Nichushkin in this prospect. Now moving on to Cole McKinney, who has just been a dynamic face-off specialist and also penalty kill wizard for the USN TDP as the year has come to a close. He has been very solid, had a very great finish to the year, and he's going to be playing at Michigan next year. I really see a lot of pro ability with this player. I really like him. I think he's going to shine as probably the top forward in the USN TDP this class. So we'll see where he goes. I think he might be someone who climbs into the first round. Who knows? At number 35, I have Cole Rechny from Victoria. This guy has become really hot really fast. I mean, if you need any just kind of evidence, go look at how many points he's had in the playoffs this year in the WHL. He has run Victoria's offense, and him and Keaton Verhoff are going to be just the building blocks for next season as well. Victoria is a very strong team, and it really starts with Cole Rechny. I love the attack. I love the compete that he has. However, I want to see him get more out of his skating. It's going to round him out as a player a lot more, and for that reason, he's down at number 35 for me. Number 36, I have Kerban Limitov from Moscow Dynamo, a very solid right-hand defenseman who is very raw, but has a lot of offensive upside, surprisingly, a lot of offensive upside. Number 37, I have Riker Lee from Madison in the USHL, a really solid winger who has an incredible upside for scoring. We'll see how high he goes, but he looks like an absolute beast over there in Madison. At number 38, I have my first goaltender on the list from Prince George, Joshua Ravensbergen, who is a tall and athletic goalie. This guy is big. He gets in front of a lot of shots. He had a pretty solid season, not one that would make him a first rounder, but I see the building blocks to make a really great goalie prospect here. For me, Ravensbergen at number 38. At number 39, I have the second of the two high risers from Russia, and that is Alex Zharovsky, and he might even go higher than that. Just an absolute dynamic play that he's been showcasing off the last few weeks. He has been up and down the ice, and he really has a lot of offensive upside. I'm a really big fan of how he plays in the middle of the ice and also neutral ice. We will see how much he climbs, and I think a lot of pundits are really coming around on him and are making the argument that this guy is a first rounder, and I'm not too far behind him. So we'll see where he goes in my final rankings. At number 40, I have Sasha Boumedian from Boston U, a left-handed shot defenseman who had a lot of big expectations placed upon him in the beginning of the year, but towards the end of the stretch in Boston, he has really started to fulfill them. I'm a big fan of him. I really think he can climb to the first round, potentially. At number 41, I have Matthew Guard from Red Deer in the WHL, a really big and tall forward who has a lot more offensive upside than his points have been showing. I really think this guy can carve out a niche for himself in an NHL lineup. At number 42, Dmitry Isayev from Yekaterinburg in the MHL. Just a little rocket. He is 5'9", but he moves incredibly. He is all the offense that you would want from Cameron Schmidt, but he's got the compete to back it up. I really am a big fan of Isayev over a lot of smaller forwards in this class because he really just shows day in and day out that the compete is really a big factor when you're a smaller guy like Isayev. At number 43, I have Roman Bausov from MHK Dynamo, a really big right-handed shot defenseman who has shown a lot of improvement down the stretch. Really like how his defensive game is rounded out throughout this year. Number 44, I have Jack Murtagh from the USN TDP, another very interesting center. I would have loved to see more production from him because I really feel like he has a unique game to him. He's a very unique player, two-way physical player. I really like what he's shown off in spurts, but again, the consistency needs to get a little bit better. At number 45, I have Simon Haoshi Wang from the Oshawa Generals. This guy's an enigma, and I wanted to talk about him specifically because at 6'6", with the skating ability that he has, so many guys are dreaming what Wang could be. However, these NHL dreams are far off. I would say at least 5 years away because he is super, super raw. He needs to learn how to play defense in order to turn into what people will dream of him. So we will see very big, great skater, but a lot of work is needed here with Haoshi Wang. At number 46, I have our second goalie on the list, Fyodor Andreanov from Krasnaya Armaya in Moscow. He has been the most impressive Russian goalie in my opinion. He's looked really solid, a lot of athletic plays. I feel like he plays the puck better than the other goalies behind him. Number 47, I have Will Horkoff, the forward from Michigan who went from the USN TDP to begin the year and then went to Michigan halfway through the year and has looked really in place in Michigan's lineup since. He's carved himself out a role in the middle six and he plays great hockey. I could totally see this guy going into the first round. Someone could fall in love with him and put him there. Will Horkoff to me is a really stunning example of a really big but also talented forward. You love to see the effort that he brings every single night. At number 48, I have Cameron Schmidt from Vancouver. The highs with Cameron Schmidt are very, very high. He can skate and score in bunches. He is incredible. However, he deals with two really brutal things to have as a prospect. 5'7" is a brutal height. It really is tough. In the increasingly larger and larger NHL, it really sucks. And what makes it worse is the disappearance without the puck. I have serious doubts that he will hold a spot in the NHL because of how disengaged he'll get without the puck. The raw talent is there. You cannot deny that he is one of the best scorers in the draft if he can convert. He makes a ton of great plays in the WHL, and I'd be remiss if I ranked him outside of the top 50. He at least deserves that much praise. At number 49, I have Charlie Trethway from the USN TDP, a right-handed shot defenseman who plays both ends of the ice pretty solid, showed a little bit of offensive strength, and is going to BU next year. I really like his development path more than a couple other people behind him. All right, now moving on to pick 50 is the start of another tier where I think these guys are bottom six, third pairing players if they even make it to the NHL. These are guys that I think have the highest upside of the players left. However, aside from a few players, it's kind of really hard to see these guys really playing more than just a handful of games. So I'm going to be going pretty quickly through this tier. Number 50, I have Peyton Kettles, a right-handed defenseman from Swift Current. Pretty interesting, a pretty trendy pick, and one of the youngest guys in the draft class, very tall right-handed shot defenseman. Number 51, I have Eric Nilsson, a center from Djurgårdens in Sweden, the third Djurgårdens player, and he's not going to be the last, don't worry. At number 52, I have Kirill Yemelyanov, a center or winger from Lokomotiv in the MHL. And I would say of this tier, Yemelyanov has some of the highest upside. He's a really good, solid, close to the net game, drives really well to the net with or without the puck, and combine that with some physicality, and you have a really gritty third line player ripe for the taking. And my worry is, if he will develop that offensive game, it's going to be a bit of a low ceiling. Number 53, I have Max Senichka from Portland. He's a right-handed defenseman who was playing in Czechia and now came over to the WHL. At number 54, Hayden Papanekas, a power forward center from Kelowna who looked really strong post the Andrew Cristall trade. Yes, he was part of the Andrew Cristall trade, but has tapered off a little bit and has a little bit more development to go, but I still believe he can carve out a little bit of a role for himself. Number 55, I have Nathan Baim, a winger from Kamloops in the WHL. Number 56, I have Conrad Fondrick, a center from the USNTDP, committed to Boston University next year. 57, Reese Hamilton, a left shot defenseman coming from Regina. And at number 59 is where I have Ivan Ryabkin. We have to be honest and say that he really has done a lot of this to himself. The goal-scoring binge that he has been on for the end of the year is a little bit promising, and there are some aspects of his game that I really think can transition. However, there's so many questions with his game, big and small, on and off the ice, that really just worry me. The skating is not where it needs to be, and his mean streak is more of like kind of dirty and cheap shots. I'm not a big fan of him. I would say be very cautious with Ryabkin, but you know what he's capable of. You know what his upside is. So he will probably be taken higher than 59th, but we will see what he does at the end of the year. Number 60, I have Daniil Skvortsov, a left-handed, really tall defenseman out of Guelph. And at number 61, I have Henry Brustevich. I've seen a lot of praise thrown Brustevich's way over the last few months, and there are things that I really like in his game. I think he's a very stable two-way to defensive defenseman, and he supports the rush a lot of the time. However, I really don't see a very high ceiling here. I'm not going to lie to you. I compare him to a player like Cody Ceci, who plays a really solid role on the bottom pairing or middle bottom pairing for a team. If you keep him as like a third liner, I think he'll carve out a really solid role there. At number 62, I have Thomas Politin from Lahti in the Finnish league. At number 63, another Muskegon player, Vlaslav Nestrasil, the forward from Muskegon, opposite Ryabkin on the wing. At number 64, I have Victor Klingsel from Skellefteå in AIK, a winger there, and he's looked really solid internationally. At number 65, I have Will Sharp, a left-handed defenseman from Kelowna. At number 66, I have Semyon Frolov from Lada in the MHL. At number 67, I have Philip Ekberg from the Ottawa 67s, another interesting prospect who came over this year into the OHL and didn't have the greatest season, but some people are blaming the coach David Cameron. So we'll see what he can do next year, but I really think he is a top 100 prospect this year. Number 68, I have Christian Epperson, a re-entry who is playing in Saginaw and played on Michael Misa's wing for most of the season. Looked pretty solid, put up a ton of points. Number 69, Theo Stockselius, our fourth Djurgårdens player in the top 100, virtually low on this entire year. His size and skill with the puck are fine. Of course, this is another thing where the tools there really intrigue a lot of people. And he might even get into a few games at the next level. I think that he has the potential to do so. However, you really cannot ignore the extremely subpar decision making and just the lackluster effort. I really haven't understood the hype from day one, but we will see if he finally gets this going in college. So we will see what he does next year. At 71, Mason West from Fargo, a really tall 6'6" forward who's climbed up draft boards. Don't ignore this guy. I really like what he has in his repertoire. Number 72, I have Harry Nancy, a forward from Owen Sound in the OHL. Number 73, I have Maceo Phillips, a left-handed defenseman, a very tall left-handed defenseman from the USNTDP, also committed to BU. A lot of BU commits from the USNTDP class this year. At number 74, I have Gavin Cornforth, a winger from Dubuque in the USHL, a really just energetic forward. You don't want to overlook him either. At number 75, I have Jimmy Lombardi from Flint in the OHL. At number 77, I have Zachary Morin from St. John's in the QMJHL. At number 78, I have Jacob Rombach, a left-handed, really tall defenseman from Lincoln in the USHL. At number 79, I come to Lucas Beckman, a goalie for Baikomo in the QMJHL. And at number 80, we have another re-entry, Petteri Rimpinen from Kiko Espoo in the Finnish league. This is the first time I've really projected an overager goalie to go in the top 100, and I should do it more often because it happens a lot. Rimpinen was really excellent for Finland at the World Juniors, and after one viewing in person where I saw him in Finland, it was great. It was really fun. And dozens virtually, he has it. He is 6 foot, which is a little concerning, but again, he has the athleticism despite the odds. And now, going in from 80 until the end of the picks that I have here, these are your kind of late third to fourth guys and beyond. You might get some NHL games from these guys, but I really don't think they'll stand out really past that. You'll get some NHL games out of these guys. They're worth mentioning. At number 81, an exciting forward, Jordan Gavin from Brandon in the WHL. At number 83, I have Sean Barnhill, a right-handed shot defenseman from Dubuque in the USHL. At 84, I have Arvid Drott from Djurgårdens. That's number 5 of the Djurgårdens group. Number 85, I have Lasse Bolius from Assat in the Finnish league, a left-handed shot defenseman. At number 86, I have Ben Keevan from Des Moines, a left wing. He's been one of my favorite players this year, despite the production really not backing it up. I like his shot and some of the creation that he has with that shot, but the chances have not converted. I really like the upside, and I can't wait to see him develop when he goes to Arizona State soon. At number 87, I have Melvin Novotny from Leksands in the Swedish league. Number 88, Owen Conrad, left-handed shot defenseman from Charlottetown, the Q. 89, Jack Ivankovic, goalie from Brampton, was on the World Juniors team this winter. At number 90, I have Lev Katzen, the undersized center for Guelph this year. Number 91, Ethan Wittenbach, one of the best USHL players this year from Sioux Falls. At number 92, I have a re-entry from the WHL, Bryce Pickford of Medicine Hat in the Dub. At number 93, I have Louis-Antoine Deneau from Quebec in the QMJHL, just a large, mountainous goalie. Number 94, I have Max Westergaard from Frölunda. At number 95, Ilyas Magomed Sultanov from Lokomotiv. At number 96, Ate Yoki from Luko. At number 97, Dakota Rail Mullen, another guy that I had really high this year that has fallen and fallen and fallen. He's been playing at Michigan this year. I really loved his play at the USNTDP. That's what's kind of keeping him here for me in the top 100, but his failure to really truly establish himself and establish an offensive game at Michigan kind of hurt him this year. Combine that with some less than ideal stagnation in his transition game and his defense, I think it's safe to say it's been a disappointing year. I really hope he bounces back. He's been one of the guys that I've been wanting more from the entire time that he's been in college. Number 98, I have Mason Moe from Madison. At number 99, Zeb Lindgren from Skellefteå AIK. And at number 100, I have center Luca Romano from Kitchener in the OHL. But I have one more honorable mention. It's Carson Cameron, a right shot defenseman from Peterborough in the OHL. I just thought I would mention him here. I think he's a really solid player, and hopefully he goes in the top 100. But there you have it. That is a ton of my time and energy, hopefully for your enjoyment. A comprehensive list of 101 prospects ranked, and yeah, a lot of knowledge going into this one. I hope you enjoyed this list, because I really will be only making one more draft rankings list this year. I don't think I'll be moving a lot more around. I'll just go into way more detail into certain prospects. And yeah, if you are here at the end of this video, thank you so much. I actually can't believe that you made it the whole way, because I mean, hey, there was a lot to go over here. Kind of working on creative video ideas like I did last year. Overrated, underrated is going to come back. I'm going to be doing way more prospect videos, like individual prospect videos, because prospect of the week for me turned into prospect of the month. So we're just going to be doing individual scouting reports, and I'm going to make them look as cool as possible in as much depth as possible. So we will see what I can do. But as for this list, as for the top 100, that's all I have for you guys for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at New Wave Hockey and on X at LinkedIn Savage. And as always, I'm your host, LinkedIn Savage, signing off.